Now playing California Triathlon Soup.
Welcome to another episode of California Triathlon Soup. I'm Tom Richmond, and today we are lucky to have Miss Holly Lawrence, who is a professional triathlete and most famously was the 2016 70.3 World Championship champion. Holly, welcome to California Triathlon Soup.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we were when we were looking at the schedule this season for professional athletes and athletes, I was really excited to have Holly on because she lives in Southern California. She lives in Santa Monica. She's an accomplished athlete, and she's killing it out there. So one of the things that Holly, I'd love to talk to you about is what are your short-term goals for the rest of this short year? Only a couple months until Thanksgiving, and certainly 2019 and above. Sorry.
So I'm pretty much looking forward to 2019 now, just because in Oceanside, I'm not sure if you knew that I broke my navicular in my foot. It went on the bike in Oceanside, and I ran the 13 miles on it, which probably wasn't my wisest day. So since then, it's been a long road to recovery. I've had surgery and 2 pins put in my navicular. So it's pretty much wiped out this year. So yeah, probably just getting back for next year now, really.
Are you have you been a good patient, or would your doctor say you've been, and PT is would say you're a good patient?
Um, I think my doctor or the surgeon would think I probably email him a little bit too much. um, yeah, just checking in all the time of what I can and can't do, and usually it's a no, you'll have to wait. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just you at that time you have to just be sensible and stick to what you're told, and because you're trying to just make it recover as much as it can and not prevent any long-term damage.
So when you found out your surgery was in April, right?
No, so I broke my foot in April, and at the time we wanted to just let it heal naturally and hoping that it would, even though if you Google the bone, which don't because it's not good, but the bone just typically has bad blood supply. So after 6 weeks, I was getting CT scans and it just wasn't showing the rate of healing that we wanted. So that's when we went through surgery. So it kind of put on a little bit of extra time, but it was worth just trying to see if it would heal first.
And but you're on the mend. So this year is so when you decided, okay, well my foot is broken. I've got to recover. What have you been doing this year? Either I mean, every time I get an injury, it's a little bit depressing because you lose the physical benefits. You don't maybe get to see your friends as much because you're not training with them. What
Yeah.
have you done to kind of keep from going crazy this year?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of crazy was inevitable. It was, 3 months of pretty much in crutches. I was in a cast for 6 weeks, then had surgery another 6 weeks in a cast. So um, it was probably and it's the biggest injury that I've been through so far. It's my first kind of major injury, really. Um, I really had a tough time with it. I couldn't drive. I had limited kind of independence. I couldn't carry anything. I was on crutches and then like a knee scooter. So my only kind of daily um, like help really was my hour in the pool, which I'd had this little waterproof baggie that I put over my cast and just pulled for an hour straight, and that was amazing just to get that in. But yeah, it was hard to kind of take a back seat, and there's nothing else you can do during that time. And there's obviously like almost like the chemical side of it that you're used to those endorphins that make you feel good, and then when that's kind of limited, it kind of it's pretty hard to get through, but everything passes. So now it's totally healed, and now I'm on the up. So it's only but positive now.
And what do you think your or would it be Oceanside? Is that your 2019 sort of first target at this point?
Yeah, I mean, probably earlier than that, just because I'll be itching as soon as I can to get out there and race. Um, so maybe Dubai in February. They haven't put the date out yet, but it's usually February. And even if I can be ready for later this year, I might race Bahrain in December. But I'm kind of just not focusing on that yet.
Got it. And when you have an injury, I know, we've talked to a lot of athletes. Sometimes, um, I had a conversation with Leslie Patterson, and your body is the way that make your money, and when you can't do that, you can't earn prize money, and sponsors can be sometimes good, sometimes bad. How has that what type of pressure has that put on, and how have your financial partners responded? I'm sure all of them have responded well, but you would know.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously that was one of my biggest concerns. Getting injured pretty much. It was like my second race of the year, and I've only just, I was relatively unknown in 2015, 2016. I started winning a bunch of races. Ended up winning 70.3 worlds, but still like before that very unknown, and that's when I barely had any sponsors. And then after winning the world champs, I suddenly like partnered with these amazing sponsors that it was a dream come true. That's like, wow, I can finally make a career out of this. And then now in early 18, I get injured, and I'm like, wow, I stand to lose everything now. And but thankfully all of my sponsors, not one of them have put any pressure on me. Everyone is just saying, no, come back when you're 110% ready. There is zero pressure from them, and I couldn't be more grateful for that, because like I would not be in this position without them at all. I wouldn't be able to just solely focus on recovery and doing everything I can to get this properly sorted. So I'm in a really really good position.
It does seem like you're in a good position with sponsors, and in 2016 we had talked right before recording this. In 2016, I had looked at your the picture of you coming through on the 70.3 World Championship, and I look at the list of sponsors on your kit, and most of those are different than in 2018. Was that just a case of you have more reach in 2018? You had the chance to work with get better opportunities, or do you think that sponsors turnover in the sport frequently? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so back in 2016, before I won World Champs, I basically most of my sponsors were product, and maybe small bonuses, but nothing really that you can like. I was racing for prize money. I was racing really aggressively because I needed to make money, because it was like an only a certain amount of time before I had to get my butt back to the UK and live with my parents. Um,
You
so
mean
yeah,
you can't go to the bank and pay them in Cliff Bars? Is that
no, but and Cliff were kind of um, Cliff were one of my sponsors back then, and and I've stayed since. And they were kind of one of my first major sponsors, really. But yeah, then after 2016, at the end, that's when I started. It kind of just opened doors then to speak to sponsors, and I was pretty unknown, obviously, as well, from the UK, going to the US before that. But then I pretty much got to choose a lot of like who I worked with, and that's why I made the decisions that I did, even between companies, the ones that I'm like, yes, I want to stay with these for for my whole career. And um, yeah, that was a big part of my decisions. Like, I would even, if there were two offers that were similar, I would take one that would be slightly lower, just because of, just to work with that company, a company that I believe, one that I believe in, and believe in to the extent that I want to be them with them for my whole career.
So to before we move on to some of the training and things like that. So
Yeah.
I look at a couple names on your page: Trek, Bahrain Endurance. I'd love to know more about that. Certainly Oakley, Cliff, Train Sharp. Um, Tell me about the relationship with, if you don't mind, Trek. The How does that work in a year like earlier this year? Um, Tell me they send you 50 bikes, or do they, make us jealous? Go ahead.
Well, I don't think I'm meant to speak about this. It's like, you're not supposed to talk about, but I have enough bikes to more than I could want. So
That's
that's
awesome.
the thing. I'm not going to go into details.
That's really awesome. No, that's right. And Trek, when you rode this year for Trek, or with a Trek at Oceanside, which bike were you on this year? Earlier this year.
The speed concept, and I was obviously with them last year as well, all year. And Trek were kind of my first brand I went with, and I just couldn't be happier. They're such a family brand, and right from the get go, I felt like I just joined this family, and they've just got such a history as well with having these like long term partnerships with athletes that. As well, compared to a few bike companies that are totally the opposite. Yeah, it was a really good move.
And the bikes come out, and you obviously have sizing, and then do you get the bike fitted, or do you have a go to place to go get it fitted?
Yeah, so Trek worked with us right from beginning. From that, I mean, they had me with various bike fitters. They work one on one with equipment stuff. So we have a mechanic as well that comes to our races. Like, when I first joined them, I was pretty surprised how closely they actually work with us. And like, even if there's something that we didn't have, they would like 3D print it. So um, yes.
I had a I we had a camp X number of years ago, and I will not tell you who the pros were, but we had two pros who could not change a tire,
Oh, really?
and was sort of surprised. They were in their late 20s,
Yeah.
and um, I wanted to show them how to change a tire, and they're like, "Nah, we're good. If the tire goes, the race is over anyway." And
Yeah.
I was really surprised, the disconnect between, hey, I just ride the bike. I don't know anything about it. I don't think that's normal. I think most folks can do a lot of maintenance on bikes and know their bikes really well, because you never know when you're going to be somewhere on a road and there's no neutral support, and
Oh,
you have to get back in the race.
yeah, I mean, it is different in racing to training. Obviously, like, there's some races that I think like a flat would put you out of the race. Yes, you can get home if you change your tire or whatever, but like, at that point it could be race over. And I don't know. I've kind of sat on the fence with that a few times. Like, shall I bring something? Shall I not? Because just because of the performance side, not for the sheer just like getting home or you know.
So one other partner that I would love to know more about, and I just don't know as much about it, is tell me about Bahrain Endurance.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically the Prince of Bahrain, he's a triathlon enthusiast. He races himself, and he's a pretty good age grouper. Um, but he's pushing triathlon in the country as well, just to promote health and well-being in the country of Bahrain, which has like an obesity problem, just the health issues. So it's just a very positive move from their point, and he sponsors this team, which is full of the some of the world's best triathletes. Jan Frodeno, Daniela Riff, Javier Gomez, Ali Brownlee, just to name a few. So, um, and we get to race in the Middle East. They really look after us, and yeah, it's just an exciting team to be part of.
It's nice to have a sponsor that is
A
well
royal.
capitalized and supportive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and just great to see what they're doing for the country as well, and it's just had a massive impact in the country of Bahrain as well.
so a couple, so you're living in Santa Monica, and if you were on your bike or maybe that's not fair, maybe not to say bike, but if you had somebody come in and you had your favorite workout, like you said, I have to get this workout done today. It's my favorite. It's my go-to. Explain what a great day of training would be like for Holly Lawrence.
I mean, it depends. I mean, right now, because I've been injured for so long, I would just take anything right now. A whole day of training would just be absolutely bliss. I haven't been able to run, obviously, for 4 months. So I think for me right now, it would be a long run, or a hard, long tempo run along the seafront or the ocean front, I should say, in Santa Monica, and finish up with breakfast somewhere. Lovely.
Nice, nice. Uh, that sounds awesome. Um, Now, do you if you have your choice of heading up the for our folks in I think Southern California, they'd be familiar. Maybe for those folks not in the area, but you can ride along the PCH all the way up into Ventura County. Um, would you want to stay closer to the water, or are you just making a right hand turn and going up Encinal or Latigo and getting on Mulholland and hitting those wonderful choppy hills
Yeah.
in Malibu?
Yeah, I mean, the PCH to me is just the gateway to the mountains. Yeah, I'm all about just going right as soon as I can and getting on one of the canyons and wiggling around. And there's great coffee stops as well on Mulholland. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Peddler's Fork and Old
Of,
Place.
of course, peddler. What's nice about this is, we're 2 minutes into talking about training, and I've heard breakfast and
It's a
coffee and peddler's fork and these are like calorie positive training sessions. I love it.
yeah.
No, like, what's interesting is on those sets of mountains, there's almost every climb you want. There's long ones, there's sharp
Oh,
ones, and there's some because of the road conditions. There's some roads that I like to climb up, and then there's some roads that there's no way I'm descending on that road.
like Tuna Canyon.
Yes. Yeah, so in those cases, you have to be very careful about, okay, I go up that one, but I won't go down this other one, like, and so, I try to explain to folks, going up Stunt, going up Piuma,
Yeah.
getting on Mulholland,
Yeah.
it it can wear you out. We actually, our team on September 1st has a ride called Malibu Madness,
Oh, okay.
and there's over, I don't know, 10,000 feet of climbing
Yeah.
and multiple loops. And I can tell you, every time I go out there, the worst thing about multiple loops is, at some point you're like, no, I'm good for the day. Yep, 60 miles and 6,000. We're good. Thank you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. I mean, you can get in so much climbing in a very small amount of time there. So you've got to be careful. You've got to pick your routes wisely.
I have definitely enjoyed going up the PCH. Long flat day, and going up to towards Santa Barbara, and it's just it's a nice ribbon of road. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
and you pass Big Rock and Strawberry Stands, and
Yeah.
it's just gorgeous. Your mind can just go to another place. You farm fields. So
Yeah. I don't tend to do too much, just flat out on the PCH, unless I'm just doing time trial efforts. But yeah, generally I just hit the mountains.
well, very good. So so in terms of swimming, let's jump over to swimming a little bit. So do you do ocean swimming, or do most of your swimming in the pool? Are you a fan of ocean swimming?
Yeah, I am a fan of ocean swimming, but just kind of before racing. I most of my workouts are in the pool. That's where I feel like I get the most benefit out of my swims. But I just think it's good to keep up with the ocean swimming, just to be comfortable in the ocean and be able to deal with the conditions of the ocean, which you don't really get just from pool swimming.
Yeah, that's one of the I always hated to do. There were two things that typical swim coaches will tell me or tell us is one, try to swim every third breath or second breath, or every
Yeah,
third stroke. And the other one was the importance of bilateral breathing. And you're not, I wasn't a swimmer, just get started, certainly wasn't doing bilateral breathing.
yeah,
And um, depending on the course, you don't, if like if you turn your head to the right and the waves are coming in that way, that is one advantage of being able to practice and do bilateral breathing. But I
yeah.
disagree with the coaches relative to take a breath every second or third time. I want that breath every time, because you never know when one of those waves is going to suck you under.
I think it's pretty personal, to be honest. There's some even great swimmers that just prefer one side, but sight. So, but just kind of dealing with the rollers, and I think more of that side is just important, just to be in the ocean.
Well, tell obviously this year has been fraught with challenges. And 2016 was probably a career high point. Is there a sort of white whale in your mind? Is there something on the horizon that you say, I can cap off what I do eventually with my career? I mean, you're very young, but this is my ultimate goal. I want to be. What would that be?
Yeah, so I have a hard issue with this question. It's just not something that, like, I've never set my sights just for one goal. It's never been like, so growing up swimming, my brother was going to make the Olympics. That was always his goal. I never had that, because partly because I never believed in it, and never knew where I could be. But I always just had this, and I say it, and it sounds really cheesy as hell, but I just want to be the best I can be. Like, I know there is a lot more I can do, and I can be a lot faster, but I don't have this just like one thing I want to accomplish and then I'll be done, which is a lot different to other people, I think. But yeah,
No, that's it's almost like a football coach or a soccer coach who said, hey, I just want to focus. Tell me about the season. It's like I just want to focus on my next game. I get that.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I still look a bit ahead, like before. So like now, obviously, I won a 70.3 world champs. Like, I obviously want to do that again. Um, eventually I want to move up to Ironman and see how good I can get over that. But I just don't put like places and certain things on that, which yeah.
So you're one of well, I think that sounds reasonable. You're a triplet. There you have you're a triplet.
Yeah,
Two sisters, a brother, sister.
a brother and a sister. Yeah.
And um, are you the best athlete of the three, or are there more really strong Lawrence children out there?
Well, we were all pretty strong Lawrences. So I was probably, I say this now, I was probably the least talented out of the three of us. My sister went into gymnastics in a big way and was really good, and my brother was like um, this amazing swimmer. We both grew up swimming together, but he was making like national finals and Olympic trials, and kind of Olympics was something that he always, or my whole family thought that he was just going to do. And then he got picked up for modern pentathlon and eventually got injured that way, but and kind of ended his career. And my sister's career ended before that. But I was the one that kind of just tried really hard, but it never really paid off. But I think I just learned to kind of reassess and never just kind of strive for those things like the Olympics or whatever. Um, and kind of grew up thinking I am untalented, but just had a really, really good work ethic. And I think that's what kind of paid dividends in the long run.
That's a rough holiday. When I guess a few years ago, that's a rough holiday dinner with the athletes sitting at that table. Pretty remarkable when you think I'm the least talented and you're the 70 point. Obviously 70.3, that you had the talent to be the 70.3 world champion. That is an
Yeah.
amazing gene pool.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's obviously there are like physiological advantages and stuff, but I'm more of a believer in just working hard. People thought it came really quickly, but I was in the sport of triathlon since the age of like 16 and been grinding for 10 years or whatever, that and being told that no, I'd never become anything, no, I'd never run fast enough or whatever. And just kind of it just fueled the fire more than anything to just prove people wrong and just persevered more than anything.
Do you now you were on you're at this point, I have to imagine that um, uh, most of the three or four people that are listening, I think my aunt listens, the neighbor, somebody down at the coffee shop, probably at Peddler's Fork. Um,
Oh yeah.
there's only five or six, so we always encourage you to invite two or three more so we can get up to 10.
Yeah.
But you're obviously British. We're from Hammersmith, and we talked prior to this. So I been there and love that area. Um, Ultimately, though, when you came from England, um, and you want to train in Southern California, is that obviously that's the reason to come to Southern California, is because the weather, the training. What about Los Angeles makes it the ideal place for a professional like yourself to train besides the weather? Are there other things that make and the terrain? Are there other things that make LA, the place that you wanted to be?
Yeah, so I most of my time I was doing triathlon when I was in the UK. I was in Swansea in Wales, and it's statistically the wettest place in the UK, and it totally lived up to that. So during the winters, it would just be hard. We'd be doing 5 hour rides in the rain, and I so wasn't a fair weather rider. I'd just um, pick up my clothes from the radiator before I got them on before riding, and it was pretty difficult. And I wouldn't say difficult, but it's just hard, and um, but hard to get that consistency. Just because you may reschedule things a lot of the time around the weather, and um, so my goal was to always, well, what I wanted was to always be somewhere that year round you could train and um, without any kind of complications or anything getting in the way, and not having to do these kind of intensive winter camps during the winter, like we would go to Lanzarote or somewhere in the Canary Islands just to get 2 weeks away, and you'd end up kind of just over egging it for those 2 weeks. And I always thought it would just be a lot better to just have a really consistent winter instead of that, and just be a lot safer and just kind of build your base so much stronger for the year. So that's kind of why I was looking to California in general, and it was just kind of um, a weird series of events that ended me in LA. I was working with a coach first when I moved to California, Matt Dixon in San Francisco, and had a boyfriend at the time that got a job in LA. So that's why I kind of moved to LA. But since just decided to stay, even though I was no longer with Matt and no longer with that boyfriend, just because I loved the training there and just loved the lifestyle. So and even though there's not really any triathletes there.
I apologize. There's no triathletes in where?
Oh, pros. Yeah, that's what I
Oh,
meant.
got it.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So you
Yeah,
mentioned,
lots of triathletes.
yeah, I was,
Yeah,
you mentioned Swansea and Wales. Are you a football fan?
a football fan.
And if so, what's your team?
I'm not really a football fan, although I did watch it for the World Cup because it's hard not to get into it then. But generally not a football fan. More of a rugby fan than I am a football fan.
A woman after my own heart. I played rugby for 22 years and loved it.
Oh no way! Yeah, yeah. I suppose being in university in Wales and most of my friends were rugby players, so
And did you ever pick up any thoughts of ever becoming, scrum half, fly half, winger, anything like that?
no, purely from a spectator. Yeah, that's all.
Well, this podcast just got a ton better. I didn't think it could get better, but being a rugby fan, that's great. Yeah, we in the U.S. we don't have really professional rugby. There
Yeah,
were maybe it's changed a little bit, but there's good collegiate stuff, and there was back in the day a super league of 16 different cities that had rugby, and you were lucky if you got your expenses paid for and flights and stuff like that, but housing and accommodations. But yeah, there was never any salaries associated with it. Um,
yeah,
and the club sports in these clubs in the U.S. are nothing like the pitches, home pitches, and 4 or 5 sides in Wales or in England. It's pretty remarkable, the
yeah,
infrastructure for both football and rugby in Europe. Um,
yeah.
Speaking of infrastructure in England, I am trying to figure out. I'm trying to crack the code. Why do you think? And the Brownlees, by the way, are I think super fanboy of the Brownlees. And I was over at ITU Leeds last year, and that was remarkable watching them and racing at ITU Leeds. Why is the
Yeah.
British? Why are there so many really strong British triathletes compared to, say, the U.S.?
Um, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Obviously, you've got such a strong women's side on the US, and I know we have a good development system in the UK, talent identification, and um, we have something called like the British Super Series, which is a domestic racing series in the UK, which kind of is more geared up to ITU. So we have it's a lot more of a focus on ITU, but there just is a lot more structure and support around that from getting people from a very young age instead of turning turning to people to triathlon from an older age, which me at the age of 16 and beyond, like 18 or whatever, was kind of told that I was too old. So there's also the negative side of that, but generally there's just a lot of opportunity to bring in talent.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like not only on the top end, for instance, in 2016 with the both the Brownlees, being there, but it just seems like the British just are, they just have a deep uh, talent development on both the men's and women's side, and it's been that way for a couple years. And certainly, that doesn't mean that the U.S. hasn't had had and have great athletes. It doesn't seem to be as deep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I think it's probably to do with the support from the younger ages.
Well, I think that in everything I wanted to cover, we did. Now, I would love to talk to you a little bit about Ride and your relationship or affiliation with Ride. Is that something we can talk about?
Yeah, of
What
course.
now? I've known Catherine Kelly Lang, who was a guest earlier this year in season one. She is lovely, 31 years, maybe 32 now with Bold and the Beautiful, great triathlete, Emmy Award winner for production. Dominic Zoida, her business partner and partner in real life, and I like to call him her man candy. Um, and we've been friends for a really long time. And we're going to be doing some more stuff with Ride as part of our Cal Tri events. Trick or Try on October 27th. They'll be there. And then also November 4th for Newport Dunes down in Orange County. Um, they have
Yeah.
amazing product. They have a relationship with Pinarello.
Yeah.
What can you say about Ride and your relationship with Ride, and what you like about the product, and why should I go out and get another Ride kit this weekend?
Yeah, so this is a new company for me that I joined and heard about the end of last year, and it was just a really exciting opportunity. Really, a company that um, starting from scratch almost, and just going for such a super high quality product and so customizable and um, just a really exciting company to be part of. And you can kind of see with what they're doing with the pros right now, and um, with just what they can do with a kit that really isn't out there in um, for a lot of brands. So it's pretty exciting and all made in Italy. So there's just the high quality component to it.
Yeah, they have a long list of really good and upcoming pros. And so I'm really excited to see what they bring to the U.S. market. We're certainly happy to have them. In August, we're August 25th. I guess that's 13 days. We're gonna be bringing them to an expo that we're doing
Yeah.
in Newport Beach at the Newport Dunes Triathlon, and we're really excited to see what they bring to the table, and very supportive. And on a personal note, I hope that they're super successful. Well,
Yeah, you'll be seeing a lot more from them really, like because I think they're just gonna. I think what you see right now is just half of what will kind of be available, and they'll be able to do. So it's just really exciting, really.
well, Holly, I have to tell you, this was when I knew we had the chance to interview for California Triathlon Soup. I think I jumped at least an inch off the ground, which is twice as much as normal. And we're really glad to have you. Our membership, at least the folks that listen to this, over half of them are women. We definitely support making triathlon more affordable, more accessible, and sustainable, and something that can be done from young, whether you're 70 or 7 or 70, and something that can be a
Mhm.
lifestyle, or be competitive and in racing. And so
Yeah.
we really appreciate you being on. If you had anything that you wanted to say to somebody who was just starting or in for a year, in terms of your your view on triathlon and what that would mean to say that segment. Do you have any words that you would share?
Yeah, I would just say just enjoy it. Triathlon is such a big community that you can just be part of. You can, there's such a spectrum from just kind of participation to really high performance. So um, it's just an exciting and positive sport. And, age group is going to be out there with the pros. And um, there's just, yeah, and just to enjoy it. For me, it's a lifestyle. Yes, it's high performance. It's my career, but it's also something I get up and enjoy so much doing every day. So um, I don't think there's many sports like that really.
Well, we have had Uber 70.3 champion athlete Holly Lawrence on today, and we're very lucky to have had her. And one of the there's a lot of downsides to being injured, but you're in a really long taper, so you should be absolutely fresh for Dubai or whatever you decide to race in 29.
Oh, I'm fresh. Yeah. I mean, the good thing is I haven't had more than a week off in the last, like, I don't know, 6 years. So I probably just needed that bunch of time to like totally recover from that many years of racing and training. So I'll be
Well, you're going
ready.
to have a whole bunch of folks who listen, at least 6 or 7 folks who listen to this, watching your first race and cheering for you and doing some shout outs. So again, we want to thank you for taking the time to spend a little time with us, learn a little bit more about you, your life, 2018, hear about 2019. And again, for everybody from California Triathlon Soup, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.